Scottie Scheffler just snapped at a reporter on live television, and the timing could not have been more revealing. This is not about one awkward press conference. This is about a two-time Masters champion, 1 week away from a chance at history, calling a reporter's question terrible to his face. Then weeks later, facing the biggest question of his entire career and not flinching once. Honestly, I think that contrast tells you more about Scottie Scheffler than either moment does on its own. One question broke through, the other one somehow did not. Do you think Scheffler's snap was justified, or was he out of line? Comment below. And stick around, because the question that actually should have rattled him is coming, and what he said in response is not what you're expecting.
Here's the setup. Augusta National, Day 3 of the 2026 Masters. Scheffler, the defending champion, is playing catch-up. Rory McIlroy opened with a historic 36-hole lead, 6 shots clear of the field, and looked untouchable. Then Scheffler goes out and shoots a 7 under 65, 2 shots off the course record, one of the best rounds of his career, on the biggest stage in golf, delivered exactly when he needed it. He walks into his press conference expecting, reasonably, to talk about one of the best rounds of his life. The first question he gets is this: "That was a 65 today. What did it feel like it could have or should have been?" Not "how did that feel?" Not "walk us through the back 9." A question that treats a near-record round as a missed opportunity before Scheffler had even sat down. Here's the number that matters: 2. That's how many shots off the Masters course record Scheffler had just finished. 2 shots off history, and the first question out of the gate was about what he left on the table. Scheffler didn't hesitate. He looked at the reporter and said flatly, "That's just a terrible question. Next question. Awful." Then he laughed, not a warm laugh, an incredulous one.
The room went quiet for a beat. Then another reporter tried again with a softer question, and Scheffler answered that one in full detail, explaining his irons, his approach shots, everything. He wasn't rattled, he was annoyed, and he let it show, then moved on like nothing happened. That's the first Scottie Scheffler. Sharp, a little combative when he feels disrespected. Human. But none of that compares to what happened when reporters brought up the one topic Scheffler has spent his whole career avoiding. That's coming up. Scottie Scheffler is the best golfer alive right now. 13 straight majors as world number 1, a number only Tiger Woods has ever beaten, 2 Masters titles, a PGA Championship, an Open Championship. Heading into the 2026 US Open, he needed exactly 1 more major to complete the career Grand Slam, joining a club with 6 names in it, ever. He is also, by nearly every account from people who cover him closely, the calmest person in any locker room in golf.
So the Masters snap should not have happened, and it happened anyway. Here's what makes it stranger. A few months earlier, Scheffler had already shown reporters exactly how thin his patience can run when a question implies his game isn't hard. Responding to a reporter who suggested things come easy to him, he corrected him directly. "I would never say that golf is easy, ever. Golf is hard."
That is not a man who enjoys being told his success looks effortless. The Masters blow-up was not a one-off. It was the second time in less than a year that a reporter's framing hit a nerve Scheffler clearly has. Do you think reporters are pushing Scheffler on purpose to get a reaction, or is this just bad luck with question phrasing? Let me know below. Now here's the part that should have broken him, if the Masters snap was any indication of how he handles pressure. 2 months later, at the US Open, with the career Grand Slam sitting 1 round away, a reporter asked him directly whether he ever thinks about completing it. If the Masters version of Scheffler showed up, this should have gone badly. It didn't. He answered slowly, thoughtfully, without a hint of the edge from Augusta. "I never stood there in the mirror and said, 'I have to do this,' but this was always something that I dreamed about doing." Now put yourself in his position for a second.
You are 1 win away from joining Nicklaus, Woods, Hogan, and Player in the smallest club in golf. Every reporter in the building wants to know if the weight of that is getting to you. How many of us keep our composure under that kind of spotlight the way he just did, especially after snapping at a much smaller question 2 months earlier? He kept going, even when reporters pushed further, asking what it would mean to actually win it. Scheffler's answer was almost dismissive of the entire premise. It's kind of a funny thing. It's like, yeah, if I win this tournament, that would be amazing. But I think then I show up the next week and it's like, okay, now Scottie's won the Grand Slam. He's won all these golf tournaments. Now where do we go from here? Not defensive, not annoyed, almost bored by the whole idea of history mattering to him personally.
And just when this looked like a clean story about a guy who simply doesn't care about legacy, someone very close to him revealed there is a lot more happening under the surface than his press conference answers let on. We'll get to that. Now here's the part nobody is talking about. Scheffler has told reporters more than once that he genuinely doesn't chase milestones. But go back 4 years to the 2022 Masters, his first major title, and a very different Scheffler shows up in his own words. He admitted he cried the morning of that final round, overwhelmed before he'd even teed off. In his own words, "I was so stressed out, I didn't know what to do. I was sitting there telling Meredith, I don't think I'm ready."
That is not the profile of someone immune to pressure. That is someone who has felt the exact weight he now claims doesn't move him, and who has apparently built an entirely new public posture since. Here's the number that should stop you: 13. That's how many consecutive majors Scheffler has entered as world number 1 heading into this year's US Open. Only Tiger Woods, at 21 straight, has ever had a longer run at that specific kind of pressure. Scheffler is currently living through the second longest sustained spotlight in the history of the sport and telling reporters weekly that none of it affects him. Maybe it doesn't anymore. People change. But the timeline is worth sitting with. A player who once broke down in tears the morning of a major, now facing the single biggest question of his career, delivering flat, rehearsed-sounding answers with zero visible strain, right after snapping at a reporter over something far smaller. You watched that Masters clip. You saw the flash of irritation, gone in 5 seconds, replaced by total composure for the rest of the press conference. That is not the reaction of someone with nothing to protect. That is the reaction of someone extremely good at deciding, in real time, which questions get through and which ones.
Scheffler himself gave away the mechanism. Talking about how he manages all of it, he credited a lesson from his college coach. I think it's always a battle to try to stay in the present. He really preached on when you're at the golf course, you're at the golf course. When you're in class, you're in class. Do you buy that Scheffler's calm is genuine peace with the pressure, or is it a skill he trained himself into after 2022 broke him once already? Comment your take. If there's one person who could confirm Scheffler is putting on an act, it would be the man who beat him to the career Grand Slam in the first place, Rory McIlroy, who completed his own 11 years earlier at the 2025 Masters. McIlroy did not undercut Scheffler's composure. If anything, he validated the entire premise from the other side. Speaking about his own Grand Slam chase, McIlroy had openly leaned into the pressure, the way Scheffler refuses to. He talked about the weight of it publicly, for years, in a way that made his eventual win feel earned in front of everyone. That contrast is the closest thing to a defense of Scheffler's approach that exists.
Neither approach was proven wrong. McIlroy got his Grand Slam by making the pressure public. Scheffler is attempting his by pretending there isn't any. Both were or are the best player in the world while doing it their own way. So the unexpected defender here doesn't say Scheffler's composure is fake and doesn't say it's real. He proves both approaches can work, which somehow makes Scheffler's version harder to read, not easier. So which version of pressure management actually works better? Living it out loud like McIlroy did, or burying it completely like Scheffler is trying to? Because golf just handed us a real-time experiment with both, and we don't have the answer yet. Here's what makes the next few months different from anything Scheffler has faced before. He now enters every remaining major of his prime with the Grand Slam question attached to him permanently, whether he completes it or not. If he wins the next chance, the story becomes how fast he...
This is the same trap that swallowed Phil Mickelson for a decade at the US Open, the one major that kept eluding him. Mickelson handled it by leaning into the frustration publicly, year after year, and fans loved him more for the visible struggle. Scheffler is choosing the opposite path in real time, and we are watching, live, whether burying the pressure works better than airing it. There is no version of this where the questions stop. Every press conference from here forward carries the same subtext, whether reporters say it directly or not. One snapped answer at Augusta already proved there's a nerve somewhere under the composure. The question is whether that nerve gets hit again before he closes it out, and what happens to his answers if it does.
Is Scheffler's brief snap at Augusta a crack in that expectation, or is it proof that even the most controlled competitor in golf has a limit, and we just found out exactly where it sits? I think it's the second one. And I think the real story isn't that he snapped once, it's that he only snapped once, at the smallest possible provocation, while the biggest question of his life got nothing but calm. So where does this go from here? Scheffler has at least one more crack at the US Open before people start asking whether the Grand Slam ever happens for him. Every press conference between now and then will circle back to the same two questions. How did the round go, and does history matter to you? One of those already got an honest, unfiltered reaction out of him. The other hasn't, yet. My verdict? The Masters snap wasn't a crack in Scheffler's composure. It was the only crack, and it happened over something that mattered far less than the Grand Slam ever will. Do you think we ever see Scheffler lose his composure over the Grand Slam question itself, or does he keep giving reporters nothing until he either wins it or the chase ends? Tell me below and subscribe, because the next time he's asked about it on record, we are breaking down every word, every pause, and every flash of irritation, live.